Hello, everybody. I think I'm recording. Yep. Welcome back to another video. So, for today's video, we're going to be oh shoot, reviewing Austin Powers' International Man of Mystery. I just finished watching this to refresh my mind on it. Um, but yeah, we'll get right into it. Um, Austin Powers, great, funny character. Um, the movie opens up with Doctor Evil and his group of henchmen, and saying he's disappointed that none of them have been able to kill Austin Powers yet. And because of that, he has this little pad on, and then with everyone's names, and when he presses it, they actually fall into a pit of fire and die. So he kills off most of them. Right after that, it's Austin Powers is basically like a bunch of little skits put together to make a big movie. Um, I'm guessing most of you or a lot of you have probably watched the Austin Powers movies. Um, yeah. So right after that, we open up with Austin Powers with his segment, and it's one of the a fun, nice little song dancing along. Uh, Austin Powers gets chased by a bunch of ladies. He escapes, then he takes over a parade, and that's how it goes. After that, we see Mrs. Kensington, which is Austin Powers' partner, and Basil comes in on their phone or their computer and warns them that Doctor Evil is after him. Uh, so that's basically the premise of the whole movie. Doctor Evil wants to take over the world and kill Austin Powers. Austin Powers wants to thwart Doctor Evil's attempts to take over the world. Um, we then move on to Austin Powers throwing a party, and we see a lady, and then Austin Powers just punches the lady and takes off her mask, and then says it's a man. Turns out it was an undercover assassin, and Austin Powers figured it out. Then we see Doctor Evil at that party, and then Doctor Evil runs out and goes into this cryogenic freeze spaceship that is a big statue of the big boy. It used to be, it might still be, I doubt it, a restaurant in the States I knew uh, early. And from there, uh, we fast forward in the future to 1997, where we see Dr. Evil's big boy spaceship. The government sees it on the radar, and it's coming back down to Earth, and then boom, it just disappears. Uh, when we see that, the government wants to contact Austin Powers, who had cryogenically frozen himself, to thwart Doctor Evil, just in case he would come back in the future. And then this is where we get our first big dose of like comedy and what the movies are. We see Austin Powers, they unfreeze him, and then they put him in this warm liquid goo, which is the warm liquid goo phase. And then from there, they wash him, they blow dry him, and then we enter the evacuation phase, where, as you all know, after a good night's sleep, you all have to go take a pee, and sometimes those pee can be really dragged out. But this one is really dragged out, and um, so yeah, he starts peeing, and then it goes on and on and on and on and on and on, and then it stops, and then the robot lady comes on, and she's like, "Evacuation complete," and then he starts again, and then he stops, and then she starts up, and it goes like that for a few minutes. Um, it's pretty funny. It's And then after that, we get Austin Powers receiving all his things that he had before he was frozen. He gets his suit, his frilly thing, his man necklace that he's really famous of wearing, and then another comedy is he gets a Swedish made penis pump, and then he says that it's not his because Vanessa is there with him, and then the guy pulls out and then a credit card statement for Austin Powers for a Swedish made penis pump, and then he jokes that it's still not his, and then he's like, a warranty card filled out by Austin Powers for a Swedish made penis pump. And then he's like, no, that's not mine. And then he pulls out a book, Swedish made penis pumps and are really my thing. And then, you know what I mean? You can't deny it, really. And then we get to our next little skit of Dr. Evil getting mad of one of his henchmen that designed the cryogenic chamber because, and this henchman is Fez, I think the name is, and I think it's played by Will Ferrell. I know in the second movie, spoilers, Will Ferrell's in it, and he plays that same character. But yeah, he gets mad at the henchman for creating it because Mr. Bigglesworth is now a bald cat. And then, for getting mad, he presses that little button. He falls into the fire pit behind him. Dr. Evil's like, yay, I killed him. And then, this is another little comedy skit of he's not dead and he's complaining about pain and being burned and whatever. And then Dr. Evil presses an intercom and tells a henchman to go kill him. And then the henchman goes down to kill him, and then he shoots him. And then Fez is still complaining, oh no, you shot me. Still not dead, and then when you hear a second shot, and then he gets silenced. Right after that, we get introduced to Dr. Evil's new henchmen. There's a few of them, but we get another good moment of comedy when Paddy O'Brien, I think is his name, gets introduced as a serial killer, and he gets, or an assassin, not a serial killer. I mean, technically they could be the same thing, but he gets introduced as being Irish, and when he kills a victim, he has a charm bracelet and leaves a charm behind. And then Dr. Evil and I can't remember the lady's name, but they mention that he's never been caught and the government's probably looking out for him. And then the Irishman always says, oh yeah, they must be after me, Lucky Charms. And then obviously they start making fun of that because of the cereal. And yeah, so it's a really funny comedy moment. Then we move on to Dr. Evil announcing his first plan to take over the world. And surprise, it's already happened because, you know what I mean, they missed 30 years of life. Then he moves on to the second plan, and guess what? This has already happened too. And then he moves on to the third one, which is just basically we'll just steal a nuke and nuke the world and blah, blah, blah. We move on to Austin Powers and Vanessa being in a hotel room or a bus or whatever. And Austin Powers wants to have sex with her and blah, blah, blah. And then she refuses. We'll get more of this further in the movie. We then learn in another skit that Dr. Evil now has a son because they took his genetics when he was frozen. He meets him. So we meet Scott, which is played by Seth Green, which plays a good character. And then, yeah, Scott hates him, obviously, you know, his father not being around for his whole life, and then just shows up, and then we get a comedy moment where Dr. Who was trying to hug him, and then he says he's cool, and then does the Macarena, and yeah, it finishes there. Then we get to Austin Powers and Vanessa getting to a casino, and they sit down next to number two, which is Doctor Evil's second-hand man, and a lot of vagina, which is, you'll see if you watch these movies, there's at least one person with a funny name like that going on to the other movies. They play blackjack. Austin Powers loses. Blah blah blah. Number two leaves. He goes to the bathroom. Austin follows him to the bathroom. When he gets to the bathroom, he's not in there at all. Then we get a comedy skit of Austin Powers going to sit in the toilet, and then in the other stall is the same actor that played Cousin Ed in National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, sitting to that stall. And then all of a sudden, Austin hears a little jingle behind him, and it turns out to be Paddy O'Brien, the Irish assassin, trying to kill him. So Austin Powers just like, ugh, because he tries to choke him from behind, so it sounds like he's having a big crap. So the guy beside him tells him like to flush at one point because it sounds nasty, because Austin is trying to drown Paddy O'Brien in the toilet. And then we get to the end of the scene where Austin Powers walks out after he's killed him, and then the guy from National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation comes out and he's like, "Holy moly, what did you eat?" As a good joke. We move on to Dr. Evil negotiating with the world leaders. He asks for $1 million and they laugh at him, but then he's like, "No, I want 100 billion," because 30 years difference from 1 million being a lot of money to 1 million being it's still a lot of money, but not as much. Yeah, and then we move on to Vanessa being on the phone with her mom, and then they talk about Austin because Vanessa's mom used to be Austin's co-partner, and now Vanessa is, and how back then Austin Powers was really sexy because of that's what everyone wanted, and blah 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 blah. And then we move on to a little bit later where we walk into the room where it sounds like Austin and Vanessa are having sex, but they're actually just playing Twister. And then Miss Kensington, or Vanessa, jumps in bed with Austin, and then she wants to hook up because she's pissed drunk, and then Austin refuses because, being the good guy, he doesn't want to take advantage of her when she's drunk. She falls asleep, and then Basil comes on the computer and tells Austin that he has to go to a lot of Vagina's room, try to get information on number two. When he gets there, he sits down, and then she comes in the room, and she slips into something more comfortable, and then they jump in the hot tub. She tries to seduce him, which she does, and they have sex, blah, 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 whatever. After that, we see Dr. Evil learn that his associates made fembots to try and overpower Austin Powers, and they say that no man can resist them. And we see them kill a bunch of guards. We then see Austin and Vanessa infiltrate the virtual con layer, and we get one of, I think it's my favorite part of the movie, where Vanessa goes to do something, and then Austin is they get into a hallway, and then their little car, or whatever you want to call it, can't move forward because of the barrier. So we get Austin Powers trying to oh, no, sorry, I'll get to that in a minute. We get to the steamroller part, where you know how slow a steamroller is, and yeah, Austin and Vanessa jump on it, and they're driving it, which is super slow. And then one of the guards starts screaming no, but he's like super far away, and then he just keeps screaming no, 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 and then he could have moved out of the way very easily, but then gets run over by the the steamroller. Sorry. We see Dr. Evil start to argue, and then Dr. Evil and Scott are arguing that Dr. Evil shouldn't be feeding them and whatever. He should just kill them. And then Dr. Evil's like, no, we're going to put them in a super easy, escapable situation behind closed doors. And then, you know what I mean? They're just going to die. That's what Dr. Evil's thinking. But obviously, they escape that. And then we get the scene of Vanessa leaving Austin, and then Austin trying to back up and go forward and back up and go forward and back up and go forward. And then we say where I used to play JTL a lot with friends, and we used to say, "Oh, you Austin powered yourself," which means in a hallway, your car was stuck like this, so you couldn't move. But eventually, Austin Powers gets the car out and gets on. We then see Austin in a room getting overpowered by the fembots. And then to destroy them, he starts doing a striptease and strips down to his underwear while being sexy and dancing and blah, blah, blah. And then Vanessa and I keep calling it the army or whatever, barges in and sees Austin Powers just in his underwear with a bunch of dead fembots. And then they move on. And then, from there we get to the end scene where Dr. Evil is drilling into the Earth's core to put the nuke there so all the volcanoes explode and basically destroys the Earth. Powers stops him, obviously. He saves the world. We then move on to the end scenes where Austin and Vanessa are in a hotel room. Basil congratulates them. And then another assassin comes in to try and kill Austin. Austin and Vanessa thwart it. And then we see them going out on the patio balcony. And they see a star in the sky. So Austin Powers takes out his telescope and sees that it's actually Dr. Evil's big boy spaceship in the sky. And then we see Dr. Evil, warning Austin that it's not over and he's going to come back for him. And then, that's the end of the movie. So, overall, I used to watch these movies as a kid. I loved them. I still love them now. It's still something I watch. I watch all three of them at least, once a year. It's always a good movie to just put on and have as a background noise as well. But yeah, out of 10, I'd probably give this one a 7 out of 10. This to me is the worst out of the three. Then the second one is better, and then Goldmember to me is my favorite out of the three. We'll be getting to those reviews here shortly. But yeah, that's going to be it for today's review. I suggest if you haven't watched these movies, you go give them a watch. You'll laugh. They're very good movies. So yeah, please leave a like down below. Leave a comment telling me if you've watched these movies, if you like these movies. If so, why do you like them? If not, why don't you like them? I'll reply to all the comments that get left down below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We do have a lot of great things coming up. Some stuff I'm super excited to get to. And so I'll just leave that video here. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.